Welcome, everybody. We are live here today for Ask the Talk Doctor Live. I'm your host, Dr. Dacia P. Hastings, and this is my beautiful co host, Star Brianna, who's also my daughter. Say what's up to the people.
Hey, everybody.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for sticking around. We are a little late getting started with our live today. We air every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And, sometimes life happens and we've got to be just flexible when life happens. But you are here, we are here, and we're just so grateful that you choose to join us week after week for this very important broadcast. You see, Ask the Talk Doctor Live. Well, first and foremost, let's introduce ourselves. Let's tell the people who we are. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Dr. Dacia P. Hastings. I'm a psychotherapist, speaker, consultant, and life coach. And as I said before, this is Star Brianna. Tell the people what you do.
So I'm Star Brianna. I'm a content creator, creative director. I do digital marketing, all of the above.
Yeah. And such an awesome job you do.
And you too at what you do.
Thank you for all that you do. We certainly need, people like you out here today. It's interesting because this past week I did a seminar on multi-generational workplaces. And did you know, for the first time ever in life, in the history of life, there are at least 6 different generations working under one roof.
Wow.
That is pretty awesome, pretty amazing. From the traditionalists on down to the Gen Zs. And this is so awesome. Just imagine what that looks like in the workplace. You probably work in a workplace like that. But as I was talking about that, your generation, for that matter, is so necessary in the workplace today to kind of bring us into the century where we can really utilize technology for effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, where a lot of the traditionalists may not have all of those skills or even want to learn the technology for that matter. But anyway, as I digress, so find us here every Friday, Eastern Standard Time at noon for Ask the Talk Doctor Live. And what exactly is Ask the Talk Doctor Live? Well, this is a show where we allow you to come in a safe space and, just talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. You have an opportunity to share questions or comments. Really, it's about asking expert questions, asking of us so that we can expertly answer you to the best of our ability, give you an opportunity to, just be in a space where you can relax and just get some really good information, because we talk about a lot of different types of topics. We like to pride ourselves on just branching out in various different topics because we recognize the uniqueness of our audience and we want to be able to be a resource to you. So you can pre-send your questions. Let's say that you have a question and you want expert advice on it, or just generally speaking, you don't really want to wait until you can go to a therapist or a professional or something to answer your question, and you just want that question answered. This is a place for you. So you can pre-send your questions every week to askthetalkdoctorlive@gmail.com, and we will perhaps air your questions here for you. Or, you might just get a response from us otherwise. But again, the chat is open and available to all of you. So, leave the comments in the comment box if you are on Instagram or YouTube here joining us today, and we will get to as many questions as we possibly can. We also have questions that were pre-sent to us, so we're going to address those. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
I think you covered everything.
Yeah, I'm excited about today's topic.
I am too.
Yeah, today's topic is an interesting one. What are we talking about today?
Today we'll be talking about pushing past your limits.
Yeah, pushing past your limits, getting to the impossible. How many of you think that you have limitations? When we think about pushing past our limitations, for some of us, we may cringe or shudder at that. But, the idea here is that, I think that everyone loves a good story of someone overcoming the odds. You know, we just had the Super Bowl last week, and I always like to hear a lot of the football players' historical journey to where they are today because it is so amazing. And a lot of times, just getting to where they have, get into the NFL was quite a journey for them. And when we think about pushing past limitations, people don't just go from A to B. And sometimes you might meet up with us at B, but you don't know what it took to get us here. And it is those amazing stories like the single mom who, thinks that she can never finish the college degree, or the children living in poverty who that's all they see and never think that they'll be able to do anything else or live anywhere else. But then later on in life, they find themselves living in this huge mansion and they're just like, wow, I never thought I could get here. And the stories go on and on. Even the janitor who started at the bottom and maybe now he or she is the CEO of the company. These things aren't made up stories. These things happen. And this is why we thought this topic of pushing past your limitations is such an important one to bring to you today. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to, there's a story that I'm thinking about when you were little, and it just reminds me of what it's like to push past your limits. So I'm going to ask you to share that story if you remember it.
Yeah, the story that she's referring to, of course I remember it. It's actually a story that has anchored me throughout my entire life. And in that moment, I didn't necessarily know that it would carry through, but obviously, like looking back, as we mentioned, like a couple of episodes back, we talked about like a quiet strength, and that's something that I carry. Why I mentioned that. So this story, I was in martial arts when I was younger, and we'd have like a match. I can't really remember what the exact term is called, but
They're like
a match.
championship competitions.
Every single week. Every week I'd lose. I would not win. I'd go back home so sad, like, why couldn't I just win this one? Or I was in martial arts with my cousin, and he'd always, like, sometimes he'd win. You get first place, you get second place, you get this place. I'd never play. Somebody else is always beating me. So the matches, they lead up to the bigger like competition. And once we finally got there, I had already lost so many. So why would I win this one? But lo and behold, I win, and I get the biggest trophy. Like, I won the biggest trophy ever. And so that stuck with me, because everybody has a situation like this. Like you mentioned about the football players or the single mom or whoever. We all, face that, and we think we're not going to win, but you never know what God has in store for you. So you just keep on going. You have to break those limitations.
Absolutely. Yeah. Such a great story. I really love it. And as you were telling it, I could almost see it, in my mind's eye, just kind of rolling back through memory lane and just seeing you, that you were just so amazed when you beat, somebody who was a yellow belt for that matter. And you had just started off. So you were just a white belt and you beat the yellow belt. And this is one of those things that just allows you, like you said, it became your anchor, because it allowed you to see that you may be the underdog, but you just never know through that perseverance where that can take you. And I think that that's a great word, because perseverance is key to pushing past your limits. You will never know that there are no limits, there are no boundaries until you push yourself. Pat, and that's what we want to talk about today. I'm reminded of this great story that I read, 3 Feet from Goal. If you ever get a chance to read that book, it's such a fascinating book just about this topic and allowing us to really recognize that we can do immeasurably more than our minds sometimes limit us to. And this particular story, please don't quote me because I read it a long time ago. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of the gist of what it is about. But basically, I think it was during the Great Gold Rush. If anybody is a history buff, you probably remember the California Gold Rush. But this was during the gold rush when everybody was digging for gold. And this group of people bought all this equipment because they had just identified an area where they just knew there was gold. And they started digging. And for months, they dug and they dug and they dug, but to no avail. And they just kept going. And after a while, guess what happened?
They found the gold.
No, they didn't find the gold.
Okay.
No, they didn't find the gold. They kept going. And at a certain point, they were just like, this is pointless. There's no gold here. They lied to us. So guess what they did? They sold the equipment to this old man, right? And they went on about their business, took the money from that the old man gave them. And this old man had an advantage because they had already dug up this whole area. And what do you think he did?
He found the gold.
He started digging, and essentially just 3 feet away was the gold.
Right. So what does that say? Keep going. They were already months into it. Why stop?
But the idea behind this is that a lot of times we don't recognize we are simply 3 feet from gold.
We're right there.
We're right there. And a lot of times you won't know this. And this is the hardest part. Imagine how those people felt.
Right.
All the money they had invested in equipment, all the time.
Right.
And then they quit. And then somebody else comes back and steals your dream.
Right.
And so the idea here is, like you said, keep going. So how do we form these limitations? Let's take it a step back for a moment, and let's talk about how limitations are formed. Well, simply put, limitations are formed
In your
here.
mind, they're so mental.
Yes, they are.
And they're not real, might I add, just like fear.
They're an illusion.
Yeah.
Exactly. They are formed in our minds and fueled by fear. And a lot of times we don't recognize how we're holding ourselves back because of our mindset. And let me just say this, for the sake of argument, there are some people who live in a limited environment. And even though you live in a limited environment and there may not be much nurturance in terms of allowing you to see that there is more to you than this environment is showing you, because support is necessary. So you live in this environment and you think that this is all that it's ever going to be. So you get caught up in this vicious cycle. Again, a mindset. Because guess what? When we think about limits and boundaries, physical walls can be broken down by boulders.
This it makes me think of, you hear those stories all the time where people are going after their dream and like they know they can't do it in this place, but this place is calling them to it, but they don't have the money. Money is a limitation.
Yes.
But they break past that. They're like, I don't care if I have just $1 in my pocket. I'm going to use this $1, get on this bus, and I'm going to go. Even if I have to sleep on couches, they're pushing past the limitations to get to their dream. So that just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Your environment, like, it's not happening here. I got to just go here. I'm not going to care what anybody else thinks or says, because oftentimes too is what other people are saying to us, and it gets trapped in our minds.
Right.
But your way of breaking out of it is like, no, I will sleep on this couch for 5 years, but I know on the 6th year I'm going to get it, or I know on the 10th year, or even in the next month, you don't know.
You don't know, just like 3 feet from goal.
Exactly.
You just never know. And I'm glad you bring up the point about other people, because one of the key things to really allowing yourself to push past limitations is support. Support is so necessary, but you can't find support in everyone, because a lot of times we don't dream big because we worry about failure so much. Failure, the thought of failure is another limitation. And we worry about failure so much, and we worry about the shame and embarrassment that might come from failure. Like if I told all these people that I'm going to be this big superstar, or I told all these people I'm going to open my business next year and it's going to be successful, and it flops. And that a lot of times keep us in the shadows of the darkness, in that limited environment where we never ever get to realize those dreams, because we are so caught up in what other people are thinking.
And that's why it's so important to have a healthy mind, so you can be clear, so you can discern, and so you can just X out everything that people are saying, that people are thinking about you, that you're making yourself think, and you believe in yourself. You believe in yourself, but you're listening to what other people are saying.
You're listening to what other people are saying.
It's important to be grounded in what you believe in, your faith, and knowing that it's going to happen. And I don't care what people say, and they'll see it when it happens.
Right.
You know?
Indeed. And surrounding yourself with like-minded people, people who are on the same path, people who are on that journey of, you know, going after more, getting more, realizing their dreams, you know, setting goals to get there. Because when you allow yourself to surround yourself with naysayers, you're going to be just like them. You become essentially who you know, surround yourself with. It's just reminding me of this, you know, this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is actually a psychological theory. And some people may have experienced it before. Certainly, I've read a lot of stories about people who are now successful. And a lot of times what happened to them, maybe a teacher said to you, you know, you're this color, so you're never going to amount to anything more. You can't do this. You should find a career in so-and-so. Or the person who told you that, you know, oh, you can't read, so guess what? You'll never be that news reporter, or you'll never be able to write that bestseller. And the more you hear it, it kind of becomes ingrained in your mind. And if you let it get deep within your mind, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the mother who told you you'll never become anything, and it just materializes to that because you heard it so much that you essentially allowed yourself not to become anything. But I like those people who, although they grew up in those environments where they didn't see anything more, that they push past the boundaries. Somehow they never allowed those thoughts or those messages to get to their core.
Or they did, and they let it be that their fuel.
Yes.
They let it make them fly. They let it say, no, not that I have to prove it to you, but I'm gonna do it. They changed their perspective on it.
Yes, you used the perfect word. You said, allow it to be your fuel. So sometimes just simply that, having that idea where somebody may say to you, you're never going to be that. Don't even try, you know, oh, I'm going to see you right back here with us. It fuels you. And those are the people who have such resilience, because that's another part of this, developing the resilience so that even during the tough times, just like the people in the book 3 Feet from Goal, even in those times when you don't see the goal, I know that I know that I know that I know that I know it's there. And no matter what you say, I'm going to keep right on digging, because it could happen tomorrow. I could be right here next to realizing my dream. Yeah. So I just thought that this was just so important because, you know, as we journey through this life, there are so many lessons for us to learn. And it is really important that if you are in a limited environment or an environment that doesn't support your gifts and your dreams, you have to push past and allow yourself to emerge from it. Find people who are on the same path
and sometimes
like you.
You don't find the people until you actually keep on walking the path.
Until you get out there.
But you can practice pushing past your limitations in literally everything. I'm thinking about when you're sitting in traffic. That's a limitation. Maybe you have to get somewhere and there's all these cars. You have to choose to be patient. Like you can flip and turn into rage and just zoom through the cars and damage a bunch of people. But you choose to sit there. That's practicing patience and practicing that, you know, overcoming the limitation in a sense, you know. And so just practice it in the little things, so that when it's a big thing, you know what to do.
You know what to do. And I agree with you with that, because that patience is so important. That patience is what's going to get us to our goals. You know, you set a goal and you want it to happen now, today. You know, you have to be patient to get to where you're going, because again, you already have locked in your mind that this is going to happen. I don't know when, I don't know the hour, but I do know with certainty that it's going to happen. And that's the type of mindset that helps you to overcome those obstacles, because it allows you, despite despite what you are feeling, despite the fear, to really push past it. And one of the principles really is to visualize. Visualize what you want and allow yourself to see it clearly every single day.
Yeah.
And that might be hard for some of you, but when you practice and when you allow yourself the patience, mindfulness allows you to do that as well.
I love that.
Yes.
And while you're visualizing, go ahead and just like write down who you see
Oh my
yourself
goodness.
being. Like not yourself right now, but the self that you're becoming. What is he or she eating? What are you, doing on a day-to-day? And
Where are
get
you
so
sitting?
specific.
Who are you with?
Exactly.
Yes.
Because in the middle ground, which is like where you're here, this is your future self, where you're getting is the limitation.
Yes.
So learn to just work
jump
with that.
over those hurdles, jump over those obstacles. That is absolutely right. Star Brianna, it's interesting because in society, when you dive into the world of realizing your dreams, a lot of times you're told, to visualize and write down your goals. And, even in companies, you have to have goals, you have to set them, you have to get to them X amount of time. It'll, take you to realize your goal so that the company can meet their larger goal. But the thing I love most about the idea of visualization, it's actually also biblical. If you're somebody who is spiritual and you ascribe to biblical teachings, all of these principles that we are sharing with you is also there.
Everything.
Yes,
there.
in the scripture, Habakkuk 2:2-3, it says, write down your vision and make it clear. And that's one of the principles for me that I live by, because not only is it something that society is telling us to do, it's also spiritually based, which means that it's already in you. It's a part of you. It's who you are. So this is something that you need to execute on a day-to-day basis. Visualizing, writing it down, and just allowing yourself to take the necessary steps to get where you're going. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yes. So we're just kind of passionate about something like this, and we wanted to just share a few tips with you. I'll highlight them again. Find a supporter, a mentor, somebody who is like-minded, somebody who's going to encourage you. Challenge yourself every day to push and go a little further. If it's an exercise program and you have gotten to a place where, the muscles don't ache anymore, now it's time to push a little further. Now it's time to lift a little bit of heavier weight. Now it's time for you to, take that 30 minutes up a bit to 45 minutes. That's what it means to challenge yourself and push past those limitations. What are some other things we talked about as it relates to the tips?
Yeah, building up resiliency. And basically just keep going, or just start, or even just knowing that, it's going to hurt, but that's where your resiliency comes in. And you just believe in yourself and kind of X out what everybody else is saying. Because at the end of the day, who is they?
Who are they?
It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you believe in yourself and that you're rooted in your faith and knowing that you'll get there wherever it is that you're wanting to be.
That's right. That's right. Just remember 3 feet from goal. You can literally be 3 feet from goal and not know it. And I think it's the not knowing that sometimes challenges a lot of people, but lock it in your mindset. It's going to happen.
And trust the unknown.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There, why do we always have to wrestle with uncertainty? There's uncertainty for a reason. Uncertainty is there because our faith needs to be stronger and our belief needs to be stronger. Believing in ourselves first and foremost, that what we can think of, what we can conceive, we can achieve.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this topic so much. Yeah, so we ready to take some questions?
Questions time.
Because absolutely, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So go ahead and write it in the comments if you're on Instagram, if you're on, YouTube, you can put some questions in the comments. We would love to take them, but interestingly, we always have some pre-questions that were sent to us ahead of time. So we want to go ahead and address some of them here for you. And who knows, they may just resonate with you. They may be something that you might hear, and it might be just a solution to something that you're going through.
Yeah. Okay, so our first one is, My son does not identify with his assigned gender. He wants everyone to address him as she instead of he. This has caused friction in our own relationship because I am a Christian and I refuse to conform to his wishes. Last week, he attempted suicide, and I feel really sad and guilty. I also feel torn because of my Christian values and beliefs. I need some advice.
Ooh, that's quite a heavy one.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
But though it's quite a heavy one, believe it or not, there are so many people out there dealing with this particular situation. Very much par for our society today. So, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll just say that, God gave you the role of parent. God is God. I love that you are a Christian, and yes, you stick to your values and your beliefs, and you remain firm in that. And this is your son, and as parent, you share those values and those beliefs with your children, and you raise your child accordingly. But sometimes things change, or sometimes the child might just feel this way, like as they're growing up. As your parent, you love your child. I don't know. It's a tricky one because you don't want to compromise your relationship with God, but I don't think that you will.
Yeah.
Because God is not gonna not love you anymore. He sees your heart, and
Yeah.
he sees that you're wanting to be faithful to him.
Yeah.
But you can't sabotage your relationship with your child, and your child is just not speaking to you anymore, and your child feels lovable, and then your child doesn't even want to love God anymore.
Yeah.
So you just keep loving your child. If your child wants to be called she, call him or her whatever they want to be called, and just continue loving and continue speaking about God. You don't have to stop talking about God, but you don't have to just push them away and be like, I'm not going to call you this because that's not what we believe. That's how you push people away and make them never want to come back.
Right. Right. You did such an awesome job answering that question. That is right along the lines with what I would also say clinically if I had somebody in my office that was, a Christian and, believed in their Christian values. One of the principles of Christian values is family first.
Yeah.
So, if you person is really saying that, I believe in my Christian values, then I think that you're missing the boat here because your child is crying out. Your child, the attempted suicide is a cry for help. And that in and of itself jumps out at me first and foremost and makes me cringe, makes me shudder, because that's the child's way of communicating to you that I need help.
Right.
You don't see me, so I'm going to make you see me.
Right.
I think that I have compassion for both sides. I see both sides. And a lot of households are dealing with this very same issue today. But like Star Brianna said, it's very important to realize that your first job, your first role, because everybody wasn't given the gift of being a parent. Let's just say that. So if you've been given that gift, then you have a responsibility to that child to fulfill that first. And that takes care of your alliance to God, your Christian values, because you are operating within that role. Now, it doesn't mean that just because you are there and loving and nurturing your child, it doesn't mean that you're not a Christian anymore, or it doesn't mean that you don't have those values. It simply means that you have to love that child through whatever they are going through, because that's what's going to get them through. And even if they don't come around to your belief system, they will grow up healthier, loved, whole, because they had a parent to support them, regardless of what choices they have made. And so I can't emphasize that more, that your child, the first thing you need to take care of is the fact that that child attempted suicide. And you need to take care of that first. You need to secure your relationship with your child so that both of you can communicate through this challenging time that you're going through. And like Star Brianna said, if he wants to be called she, if he wants to be called they, whatever it is, respect that. Respect
and
that
love them
and
through
love
it.
them through it,
Mhm.
because that's what you need to do.
Mhm.
You know, you would want to be respected the same way
Mhm.
if it was a different situation for you.
Mhm.
Think about this child needing to grow up in a supportive and nurturing environment. And supporting and nurturing somebody does not necessarily mean that I agree with your lifestyle.
Mhm. Exactly.
Simply put.
Mhm.
You know, this was an amazing question. Thank you for sending it in. I
Mhm.
hope that it not only resonates with you who sent the question, but with many, many other parents who might be struggling with the same. Let's take another question.
Good question.
Yeah, I'll read this one. So this one says, I think my husband is a dictator. He makes decisions for me, even he makes decisions for me in our marriage and our household. He doesn't consider my input. Intimacy is also determined when he wants it, how he wants it. What should I do?
Hmm. So you can go ahead first with that one. Yeah.
This is an interesting one. This is an interesting one because here's this person who is in a marriage and doesn't feel like she has a voice.
Mhm.
She feels like her husband dictates, you know, just about everything in their marriage and also in their household. And now she's at the point where even, you know, their intimate life is being dictated by him.
Mhm.
And, you know, I would say that that is a tough one because it's a struggle for somebody to be in a relationship where they feel invisible. And a partnership is a partnership. And so if you're in a marriage with someone and they are quote unquote dictating your every, you know, move, your every life, that's going to be a tough one where you're going to have to, and first of all, this didn't just start, person who sent this question in.
Mhm.
You sanctioned this at some point in this relationship. I just need to say that to you.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I always say to my couples when they come, you know, for issues around, you know, we don't agree on certain things. When were the expectations in that partnership set?
Mhm.
You know, you can't have a true partnership with someone if you're going to agree to certain things and then later on you're going to be like, I don't like this.
Mhm.
Because that person has already gotten in the rhythm of you allowing them to control your entire life, and now you want to shift.
Mhm.
But there's always hope to turn things around. And if you see that this is happening in your relationship, and unfortunately it's quite hard sometimes with somebody that you deem a dictator, because I know the profile of people who control other people, it's going to be hard for that person to, you know, come step back from that and recognize that my wife is an equal partner in this relationship and I need to hear her voice as well.
Right.
But there's a place to start about setting the expectations. And when you begin to talk the talk, you're going to have to walk the walk.
Mhm.
You can't say that you want a voice, but then you succumb when the person then dictates everything and tell you it's my way or the highway.
Mhm.
There's going to have to be some tough adjustments, and people are going to feel uncomfortable until you recognize that, hey, yes, something has got to change because we're not functioning in a healthy way.
Right.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
You hit the nail. There's a couple of points. I like that you said, even if this has been going on for a number of years, like you said, it's going to be hard, but at least we know that you do have a voice, and you can have a voice even after years. Like you can interject and say no more.
Yeah.
I still want you to be my husband, but you're gonna have to listen to me. I'm gonna have to put my foot down. I'm gonna have to say I don't like this anymore, or I never did like it. And I'm like, express. I'm sorry that I was allowing this for so long.
Yeah,
but if this is
working.
if this is going to work, you're gonna have to listen to me, and you're gonna have to respect my boundaries and respect, this has to stop. And some serious work is going to have to be done so that this person can listen to you. But if this person loves you, it should be automatic, but sometimes it's not, because it's been trained to be that way. But it's not that it can't change.
It's not that it can't change. Yes. And if this person is open, which I hope they are, a professional help is always a good way for people to see what sometimes they don't see
Mhm.
when it's just the two of us,
Mhm.
or we're kind of trying to, grow our way through a situation. We may not always be able to see things
Mhm.
that a third party might be able to see.
Mhm.
A lot of times, for some, depending on your race and who you are, the informal systems can help. Like if you have other couples who have, a strong, healthy relationship, surround yourself with them, allow them to mentor you, and your husband
Yeah.
probably needs other strong
I
men
like that. Like,
around
don't be
him.
afraid
Yeah.
to ask questions. You guys go
No.
on like double dates, like,
Oh, yeah.
what's your take on this? Or
Right.
like,
This is what's happening in our household. But remember, trusted friends,
Mhm.
people who are going to lift you up
Yeah,
and not,
tear you down.
and
Exactly.
not tear your relationship down. People who are going to support your relationship as you grow. Because for that all intents purposes, he might not recognize the impact that he's having on her, because he might have learned how to be that way, how he was raised.
Mhm.
And so now in his marriage, he's showing up this way.
Mhm.
And he might very well want to have a different kind of relationship, but just not know how.
Yeah.
But when you surround yourself with different couples, sometimes learning, each one can teach one.
Mhm.
And if that doesn't help, again, professional help is always available to you.
I like that, because if it is just a way that he was raised and now he's just bringing in, the same things that he learned into
So
the
learn
relationship,
behavior.
he can change it, and he's willing to change it because he loves you. So now it's just some work that's going to be
some work has to be done.
Yeah.
All's not lost. I have compassion for what you're going through,
Mhm.
and I wish you the best. I really hope that things work out.
Mhm.
Try some of those tips that we shared. I think we have time for one more. Again, if you're on and you have a question, go ahead and place it in the chat, because you are the most important people to us today, those of you who have joined. So we want to be able to take those questions and be able to give you the answers that you might be seeking here. So we're gonna do a last one, and we're gonna give you an opportunity if you have them before we close off. So this last question that came in, I'll let Star Brianna read it.
Okay. I want to lose weight and stay healthy, but I have these cravings that are sometimes impossible to control. What should I do?
That's a good one. And I like how you guys are bringing in the wellness component in this, because your Talk Doctor is so passionate about wellness.
Mhm.
In fact, you can check our wellness events out, or send wellness questions to the Talk Doctor Wellness Consultations at gmail.com, because we have a whole wellness component as well, and we want to be helpful to you. So I love this particular question. What's your take, first and foremost, on this person's question?
Yes. So definitely check out her wellness tips and just events and everything, because they're awesome. This question goes back to our topic about limiting beliefs, and just that it starts in your mind.
Yes.
So this craving is mental.
It is.
Your mind is making you gluttonous, dare I say, and feel like you need it,
right,
and you don't.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the hard thing that you need to break.
That is the hard thing.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have a key
Mhm.
to breaking free from the mindset that you have. Star Brianna is right on point when she said that a lot of what we do or do not do comes back to our mindset.
Mhm.
And there is just a whole, if you practice mindfulness, let me just say that first of all, you can combat just about anything in your life.
Mhm.
About 2 weeks ago, I did a wellness seminar on mindfulness and exercise. Very powerful. People didn't even realize that there was such a thing as being mindful in your exercise. One of my seminars is also mindfulness in eating, and I'm going to address it this way with this particular person who's having cravings, because like Star Brianna said, it's really your mind.
Mhm.
And the more you focus on that craving, the more you're going to give in to what that craving is telling you in your mind. So maybe for you, it's sweets, right? And after dinner, you always have to have sweets. So you have already taught your mind that that's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And so after dinner comes and you're like, I'm not going to have sweets today. But your mind keeps telling you, you need something sweet, you need something sweet, you need something sweet. And you sit there and you focus on that idea of you need something sweet.
Mhm.
Guess what's going to happen? You're going to go get it.
Mhm.
And then you've just sabotaged the idea that you said, no more sweets after dinner.
Right.
And so mindfulness tells us that we have to anchor ourselves in something.
Mhm.
So whether your anchor be breathing in that moment and you persistently and consistently breathe your way through
Mhm.
until that thought goes away, because eventually it will.
Mhm.
You know, your mind goes where you take it. And the more you focus on that craving, you're going to give into it. So you have to find a different anchor. So it might be that you get up from the table and you go take a walk, or you get up and you drink some water, you call a friend, you do something else that you can put your mind in focus of whatever that something else is, so that you don't focus on the craving that's in your mind.
Exactly.
And you train yourself that way, and eventually you're going to find, I really don't need the sweets after dinner,
Mhm.
or I really don't need that snack,
Mhm.
you know. And so that would be my best thing, to practice mindfulness. And mindfulness can start off with, you know, mindfulness meditations that allows you to channel your energy within, stay in the present, in the here and now. So you train your brain so that you can use that technique for other things in your life as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
And also knowing, just a last point, knowing that like there's a void oftentimes that you're trying to fill. So
Yes.
realize what that void is,
Right.
and you know, back to your mind, you know,
Yeah.
you know, fill it, but not with food, not with food.
With something
with
else.
something else
Healthier. Yeah, she's absolutely right.
Mhm.
And that's part of what I teach when I talk about mindfulness and eating.
Mhm.
You know, taking inventory of yourself, asking yourself, am I really hungry?
Mhm.
Am I bored? Am I feeling depressed? Am I
Mhm.
sad? All of those things you have to ask yourself and be truthful with yourself about, because she's right. You might just be emotionally eating.
Yeah.
And emotional eating is one of the worst things that we can do, because yes, it does lead to weight gain and eventually a whole host of other health issues, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Yes, indeed. So we don't see any questions in the chat, and you know, this time always goes by so fast. It's just amazing how much we can cover in a short space of time, but I'm always just so, oh, it's time to go already. But, you know, for those of you who stuck in here with us today, as we talked about pushing past limitations, we really, really do appreciate the time that you took to be here today. And so any closing thoughts for the people before I give mine?
I'm gonna let you take it away. You always do such an awesome job with that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I
Mhm.
love how you responded to these questions today.
Mhm.
Such a wise person, isn't she? Isn't she there? So, you know, as we said before, as we were talking about, you know, getting to your impossible and pushing past those limitations, I want to point out, you know, just such a great quote from Aaron Laurenstein, who said, "From this point on, you don't need to know how to quit in life." That is just so awesome.
Mhm.
Very simply put, but means so much. The most common cause of failure is quitting.
Mhm.
To me, that's more than powerful.
Right.
And even though I said there isn't much else to say, I wouldn't be the top doctor if I didn't expound on it. So here I go, if you will indulge me.
Mhm.
You see, a person who is seeking success in life, quitting must be nowhere in sight.
Mhm.
In other words, if it's not on the table, you can't choose it as an option. Therefore, you know, make sure that quitting is nowhere in sight. I love those stories we told today about pushing past limitations and boundaries and all the against all odds of success, like that great comeback story or the underdog winning the championship game. You know, the race ahead may produce frustration, anger, but for some of you, hope and resolve. So just remember, you have everything within you to run the race that you've been chosen to run. Run your race and not anyone else's race.
Yeah.
Because if you try to run a race that's not yours, you're only going to end up with heartache, pain, and disappointment. Your path is already set for you. So release the limits, breathe, and gain the victory. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. It'll really help our channel. It'll really help us to expand this to a wider audience because so many people can benefit from what we're doing here. So we want to remind you to send in your questions to askthetalkdrlive@gmail.com. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time on Ask the Talk Doctor Live. See you soon. Thank you for being here.